Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Rodent Control Foundations, Behavior Risks, and Real-World Challenges. My name is Jennifer Wells, Project Coordinator here at the National Environmental Health Association, and I will be your host today. To begin today's webinar, I'll highlight the partnership between two organizations that made this webinar possible and provide a brief overview of each. Then I will introduce today's speaker, who has a wonderful presentation planned for you, and we will have a Q&A session following the presentation. As we come to the end, we'll provide a few final announcements on upcoming opportunities. I have just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. The recording will be uploaded onto the NEHA Vectors and Pests webinar page. And you can also find recordings to previous webinars here as well. If you have any questions for our speaker during the presentation, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions, and we will get to as many as we can after the presentation. At the conclusion of the webinar, you'll receive a link to take part in an evaluation survey to provide feedback and comments on today's webinar. We ask that you take the time to let us know how we can continue to meet your needs as an organization. This webinar is brought to you in part through a collaboration between Gulf South Vector and NEHA through grant funding from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Now I'll quickly share some information about both organizations. So the mission at the Gulf South Vector Educational Center for Training, Outreach, and Resources, or VECTOR for short, is to forge a robust, innovative, multidisciplinary, and cooperative regional network. They aim to provide innovative training and resources to professionals and students, creating a unified workforce that enhances regional capacity to monitor and respond to vector-borne disease threats. If you want to know more about this organization, you can scan the QR code or visit their webpage at vectoroutreach.org. The National Environmental Health Association is the professional home for people working to protect the public's health and environment. We've been around since 1937, supporting thousands of members in government, industry, and academia. Our mission is to build healthy environments, protect communities, and empower professionals through education, credentials, and advocacy. We offer nationally recognized certifications, ongoing training, mentoring, and a strong professional network. So when you join NEHA, you're joining a community that helps you grow, connect, and make a difference. And we invite you to learn more about how NEHA supports the environmental health workforce and how you can be a part of it. If you're not yet a member, becoming one is quick and easy. Just scan the QR code on this slide to get started, and we'd love to have you as part of the NEHA community. And we are thrilled to invite you to NEHA's annual educational conference and exhibition, Woven Strong, the Environmental Health Tapestry, from August 3rd to 6th, 2026 in Kansas City, Missouri. This year's theme embodies how every thread, our expertise, experiences, and innovations interlace to create a stronger, more resilient future in environmental public health. At AEC 2026, you can discover the latest research and best practices from across the field, gain fresh perspectives, and leave with practical ideas you can put into action, connect with peers, mentors, and partners. So we encourage you to mark your calendars and be on the lookout for early bird registration, which will be opening on December 1st. So before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to share the learning objectives for this webinar. After today's session, you should be able to understand how rodent biology and behavior contribute to infestation patterns, analyze how environmental and structural conditions influence rodent behavior and infestation risk, identify common rodent activity signs, entry points, and conducive conditions during inspection, and evaluate the effectiveness of rodent control strategies. Now, I'm excited to introduce and welcome our speaker for today, Janet Hurley. Janet holds a bachelor's degree in community health from Texas Women's University and a master's in public affairs from the University of Texas at Dallas. She was hired by Texas A&M AgriLife Extension in 2001 to oversee the Texas School IPM program. Now, Janet implements school IPM coordinator training for public schools in Texas and oversees the statewide effort to educate schools about their integrated pest management programs. Janet also oversees the efforts of the IPM Experience House, a hands-on training facility located in Dallas to train pest management professionals and homeowners about structural pest problems. So with that, I will pass it over to you, Janet. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Let me see if we can share. Okay.
Looks good.
Looks good?
Yep.
Just want to make sure that you guys can see what I am seeing. Well, and for those of you raising your hands, if you'll put something in the chat, I do feel that either Jennifer or Chris will be able to answer your questions. And if you can't hear me, make sure your speakers are okay. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? My favorite topic, rats. And everybody asks, why does Janet get excited about rodents? One, it became a personal quest many years ago. Two, I am the non-entomologist in a department of entomology, so I get the mammals. Bats and rats are the two, but it's also because, again, this is a major problem we have. And to illustrate this, and we are all going to hope and pray that I can get my video to actually play.
Sounds like the sound is not working, Janet.
Okay. So I will just skip along on this, but this is Dr. Bobby Corrigan, world-renowned rodentologist. And y'all, he was the one that taught me how to do IPM inspections 2 decades ago. Bobby and I, along with Dr. Claudia Regal, Claudia and I have known Bobby forever, but his whole thrust on this, and I will at least get this up on some YouTube channel, because what I want you all to understand is rodents are a threat. They are a major disease threat. So let's talk about the diseases, because this is something a lot of people just kind of poo-poo and put aside. And what I really want everyone to understand is that ectoparasites, in other words, these are insects that live on a mammal or a bird or something and thrive off of them. Well, I got news for y'all. Many decades ago, as Miss Jennifer was saying, I got my undergraduate degree in community health. Well, I'm sure most of y'all in the audience took a microbiology class. And in that microbiology class, they probably said, oh yeah, plague, we eradicated that. Oh yeah, we don't have this. We don't have that. We do. Plague transmitted, we say, by an oriental rat flea, but we have also realized that the cat flea can also transmit this disease. So again, it feeds on the host and then comes and bites you on the ankle and gives you the disease. The other one that is extremely prevalent, especially in the South, is murine typhus. Again, we say rat fleas, but we've also caught them in cat fleas, dog fleas. They're a flea. Again, a lot of times it's either contaminating the skin or the mucous membranes, but you don't realize you're being bitten by a flea. You get sick. And the only reason we know that murine typhus is on the rise is if somebody goes to the doctor and they've got these flu-like symptoms, and they may have the rash, or the rash may look funny, AKA like a poison ivy or a fire ant sting, but they've got these other symptoms. Well, they test negative for COVID, they test negative for the flu. So now medical personnel are trying to figure out what's the biggest disease. Rat bite fever, again, that can come from direct rat bites or from the louse. Then you've got the ones with ticks, tularemia, and tick-borne relapsing fever. Again, you get bit by the tick. What does the tick do? It spits blood back and forth between each other, and then you've got a disease. Diseases associated with rodent urine and feces. I want you all to realize that, again, for years we said, oh, we don't have it well described. We've got it well described. And the three biggies, I got to put some more in here, but these are the three biggies. And I put number one, hantavirus, because that was in the news. And it literally was deer mice, rodent droppings in outbuildings, in garages, because again, there was a lot of clutter and nobody did anything about it. So when you're inhaling the rat droppings, as you all can probably see on your screen, hopefully, that again, this is all rodent droppings. That's part of a carcass. So while I was cleaning, I was making sure I had gloves and a face mask. The other disease that is extremely prevalent is leptospirosis. This one not only can transmit to humans, but to animals. I mean, in Texas, a lot of our veterinarians are recommending that dogs and cats get the vaccine to prevent them from getting sick. Because as you can see, they're flu-like symptoms, but then it goes into liver and kidney damage. And then nothing says happiness like salmonella. I mean, come on, doesn't everybody like to praise the porcelain god? So as you can see, there are several diseases, and this is the one reason why myself and Claudia Regal really care. So when I talk about integrated pest management and I talk about what we need to do, I tell everyone pest management is people management, because the hardest part of pest control is getting an individual to take their responsibility seriously. So understanding inspections, identification, that realistic IPM plan, and then evaluate and educate. So when I say IPM is for everyone, this definition, IPM is a strategy that provides quality pest control using the least hazardous chemicals and techniques. To accomplish this, IPM programs use current comprehensive information on pest life cycles and biology. Why did I read all that out? Because I want you to understand the integrated part of IPM. Most people, when they hear that they've got an IPM coordinator or we've got an IPM program, all they hear is pest management, which they think, oh, you can go out and control. Well, the problem, especially with rodents, is there is no one silver bullet. It takes multiple control tactics. It really, really takes that understanding of their biology. They're a mammal. They are not an insect. As such, for 40 years in pest control, we have tried to treat rats as bugs. I've got news for y'all. In the last 15 years, they're mammals and they're smarter than the average bear. Then you've got to figure out what is your acceptable level. Well, my running joke, rats in nature, fine. Rats in and around my house, game on. But it's true. I don't want a lot of rats in nature, but they do serve a purpose for other higher beings. But you've also got to minimize the risks of using a chemical for not just non-target organisms, but the environment, which is a big thing if you're looking at pesticide labeling going into the future. So one thing about IPM, I mean, it's not a once and done thing. I have been training school districts for over 20 years, and I tell everyone, you don't get it the first year. You're not going to get it the second year. Third year, you might understand what I have just said, because it does take a lot of understanding environments. And if you're managing several different buildings, it gets kind of dicey. So work on that. And then understanding that pest prevention is part of the IPM solution. So where do you do IPM? Food establishments, schools, childcares, hospital, nursing homes, medical clinics, zoos, animal shelters, museums, green spaces. You've got parks. And trust me, at the federal level on parks, you cannot do a lot of chemicals. So again, learning to live with nature. And then anywhere else that you want to have a long-term pest prevention method, AKA my house. So how do you build an IPM program that is proactive? Formal rodent assessment on facilities and grounds. You've got to know. I mean, I have been on more than one campus walkthrough in the last couple of weeks looking for rats. And it is not just walking the exterior and looking down at the ground, but looking up above, looking at doors, looking at trees, touching things. I mean, you need to understand that. The other thing that for both the customer and the pest management professional is getting the right bid spec, paying for the boots on the ground, the eyes, the ears, the smell, because especially with rats, there are some other things that go along with them, just not just the furry little critter. Understanding what type of equipment they're using. Are they using the sensing devices? Are they using stations? What are they using? Because everybody needs to be a little bit familiar with that. Looking for, and people say, well, why non-wall areas? Well, if they can burrow under a building, they will burrow and they can come up in the middle, because what they're looking for is that weak point, either in a plumbing penetration or a crack in the foundation or an expansion joint, because remember, they don't need much room. Incoming supplies. I mean, I have heard some wacky stories, but they do, especially mice. And then making sure that people are communicating, and then doing quarterly reviews. I mean, I work with grocery stores. This is something they do frequently, especially when the weather is about to turn, like for most of us in the country this week. And I believe that they'll share this actual link in the chat, but if not, I mean, y'all are free to reach out to me and I'll give you this, but this is an article, this PCT is an article from Dr. Corrigan on what you need to do for proactive rodent control and food safety. So the forms that we use in pest control look a little bit different than if you're an environmental health professional, but both track information. They're going to track what goes out, how it goes out, where it goes out, when it goes out, why it goes out, what is the target pest. It is the English grammar of who, what, when, where, why, how. But we use this. We use a pest sighting log. If I can get my mouse to get over there. The pest sighting log, because either we're doing that, writing it down, or we are putting it in a work order. But if an employee sees something at 8 o'clock in the morning, but pest control doesn't come out till 3 days later at 5 p.m., they're not going to see the same thing. But the other thing that speaks volumes, and I'm sure most of you know that, is we now have these wonderful devices called phones that can take pictures. Taking a picture and attaching it to a work order or an email to somebody saying, this is what I saw and when I saw it, gives a better idea of where to look. Now, if I'm an environmental health professional, I have my standardized food safety inspection report. I have got my report that I actually give you, information on, and I can't figure out why there we go. The mouth, what's wrong. But I wanted to remind you all, because this is my Texas one, but every state should have your own policy and standards, and refreshing that and making sure people understand that. Because I got news for you. I can go over this with anyone, and a lot of times it is garbage in, garbage out. Oh, we have to, even though this looks like a very small book, it's got kind of small print, but it's still 50 pages of rules, rules that we all need to abide by. So the IPM process, like I said, inspect. You can call it assessment, you can call it scouting. I don't care what you want to call it, Mr. Wizard, but you're going to get out and look and observe. Dr. Corrigan calls this the observational biologist. That's pretty much what I am. Identification. I don't care if I'm talking rodents, ants, roaches, you name it. I need to know what you have exactly before I can tell you how to take action, because taking action could be preventing, could be cleaning, it could be using traps. It's everything from prevention to control. And then evaluation. Did what was put out work, or did it not work, and why? I'll never forget putting out, doing a nursing home study, putting out 30 monitoring devices, mapping them out, and then going back and going, I can only find 5, because my evaluation came to, oh, custodial would catch a glue board on a mop and it would go away. Not very effective. So why do we inspect, monitor, and measure? All right. First rule of thumb, people lie. They will tell you that the rat is this big. If it's this big, it's a nutra. It is not it's not a roof rat. The other parts, again, they want some type of drama to get you to react, if you're a pest control person, faster. So again, understanding the physical conditions of a building, looking for what we call conducive conditions. When we do Rodent Academy, we talk a lot about garbage and clutter. Why? Because that's a rat's haven. Pest damage and pest signs, it's not just looking for rodent droppings. We're going to show some really good images of damage, and then looking for the unsanctioned pest control attempts, because nothing will drive a pest control person nuts, including myself, is I'm doing this and then the homeowner is doing this as well, and they could be completely opposite of each other, giving out false signals to what you're trying to control, and neither ends up working. Okay, wait a second. Now, sorry about that, y'all. So, what do you need for good inspection tools? Well, you've got your eyes, you got your ears, you got your nose, right? Eyes to see, ears to hear, nose to smell. But there's some other things. I always need a good flashlight. The mirror, the mechanic's mirror, that thing is the bomb, because you can raise that up, and if you don't have a ladder, but you can see things, you can see dead insects, you can see all sorts of nasty stuff hanging up on a top shelf. The other item that is shown here, it's called the FIT tool. It is designed by Dr. Matt Fry out of Cornell University, and Matt decided that using my fingers wasn't really good, because I typically say right now at this point, look at your index finger, everybody. That's a mouse. Put 2 fingers together. That is a rat. The reason I am showing you that and saying that is this little hole that you see right here is this hole right here. And this is the rat going into the hole. If they can get their head in, everything else goes in. This one literally was one of the schools that we were walking, and this rat is going in between the expansion joint and the building. Y'all, I can stick a finger down there, and that's where that rat is going. So when y'all are looking at your fingers going, oh my gosh, that's a rat. So when we talk about inspecting, we talk about inspecting in what I refer to as the 360 environment. It is down on the ground. It is up in the ceiling tiles. And yeah, these ceiling tiles will creep you out more than you will ever know. It is looking at door sweeps, making sure that, again, I can't even get a credit card underneath here, because if I can get a credit card underneath here, so can ants, so can crickets, so can a few other things. I get my finger, I'm a mouse. I can get 2 fingers, I'm a rat. I'm on my hand, I'm a snake. Just saying. So again, because they're small and they generally go, undetected, they can go into a building quite easily. These are the same entry points that a lot of times bees, wasps, roaches, everything else. So it requires looking at things. Where's the vegetation? If you have got a tree that produces acorns of any size, okay, that's food. That is food. If the tree limb is hanging over a building, that is not food, but it's also a place to live. And then I can get in the building and I can stay warm. So you've got to look at doors. You've got to look at overhangs. They will use spots that we wouldn't think normal, and they think it's the greatest thing. So when you're looking at an outside of a building and you're an environmental health professional and you're doing your audit, you want to look at utility access points, because God bless plumbers and IT people, but sometimes all you need is a 1-inch diameter hole and they give you a 6-inch diameter hole, and then you've got to try and seal it up. What is your neighbors? I mean, if one of my schools that I had inspected, literally the creek next to the school is getting a redo. So they're going through and they're tearing up stuff. Well, if the rats were hanging out there this summer and now they're being disturbed, well, I'm going to go to the nearest place, and either I'm going to go to the neighbor's house and get in their garbage and their garage, or I'm going to go to a school building where they've got some empty space. Again, what type of rubbish and clutter do you have? You hear the stories about firewood. Yeah, but you don't want firewood near your house, okay? How close are those trees? Facilities, is it in, out, constant activity because it's open 24 hours a day? Or does only somebody go in once a month? So again, knowing all of that, you take that into consideration. So who are our evildoers? The bottom image is the house mouse, most successful mammal on the planet. It's not from North America, came here with ships when we were first establishing the country. The other two, they also came in on a boat. You've got the roof rat, which is the bottom one. This one right here, it's got a pointier nose. It's got nice big feet, big ears, and this tail goes all the way to the nose. Whereas the Norway rat, which was getting into that one image that I showed you, where it was going in the crack in between the building, that's this one. And that rat, thicker tail, doesn't go as long as a roof rat, and it's a lot more boxier. So you can think of it more as, defense, whereas the roof rat plays in the football arena of offense. And house mice, they just get along with everybody. So monitoring is a little bit more than devices. Granted, I know of a few health professionals that are probably watching this, and if they had seen those 3 mice along with the cricket and the cockroach on a glue board inside a food storage facility, they would all faint. Problem is again, you shouldn't be seeing those. But if they didn't have the glue board out and they weren't monitoring, you may not know that they have mice. The same with these rodent bait stations. I will say that sometimes they are not deployed correctly. A lot of times they go unused, and then they become housing structures for all sorts of things: snakes, mice, rats, ants, snails, you name it, baby rabbits. So again, Even though they look like they're doing stuff, they may not. So one of the things that we teach, again, when we're doing Rodent Academy, is you got to think like a rat. All right. It was one thing to think like a cockroach. Now I got to think like a rat. But if I'm a rat, I really don't like bright light. So I'll stay in the shadows. I will follow lines when we talk about them being thigmotactic, where they will touch things. But here's the thing. If they are comfortable in their environment, they don't necessarily need to touch that wall if they know that there isn't a predator. Corners, yeah, they'll go hide in a corner. I mean, that's a good place for me to go eat my meal and not be disturbed. The biggest thing they need is warmth. Because they are small bodies and they don't hibernate, what you need to remember is they are going to seek out warmth. Warmth meaning, okay, is it warmth from a motor unit? Is it warmth from heat escaping a building? Is it because I can't get up in an attic structure? And then what kind of holes do you have? And you're going to start seeing this. The other thing is the black grease marks that we call sebum trails. And then don't kid yourself, rats stink. They stink to high heaven. So let's look at some examples because this is where I get to show all the gross stuff. So excessive and unnecessary penetrations. All right, y'all, let's start with the image on the left. We have, again, a brick wall. I've got some copper going in. But if I'm Pepe Le Pew, or a cat, forget I'm a rat. I'm in that building and I'm coming in and out, in and out, in and out. That one, it probably would take more than concrete patch, but it can be sealed up so that nothing can at least get in. Because once you let them in, they don't want to leave. Why not? You've got food in there. You've got someplace warm. Who goes and checks that basement? The other one, and again, everyone gives, come on, mousy mouse. This right here. Oh, go backwards. Just that opening. It may be a clean out. It may be something that's been piped up, but we don't know because all I need to do, and I have seen this more than once, rat goes down, goes in, comes up, and yes, especially if I'm a Norway rat, just come up out of the toilet. I've got no problem with that. So when I talk about attention to detail, y'all, I was going into a building and I walk up and I'm like, what is that bait station? The bait station is up on its side. That is so ineffective because it's the bait's up here and you're hoping that the rat's going to do this. I mean, I got the principle, but this wouldn't have been the right box for the job. They make other stations that would work like that. This one here, oh, we're supposed to tamp down to make sure that that rodent bait station can't move. This is an illegal placement. This one, how did you like to buy something in the store and it came preloaded with rat droppings? And this one this is the rats going up, chewing on the expanding foam so that they could gain entry from a mechanical room into the building. And that's all of this. So those are the types of things you need to look for if you're doing inspections is what doesn't look right. Then we get into doors. Y'all, this one killed us. School put this in, built this new wing, and we forgot to seal up this entire area. Y'all, this was just letting in anything up and around the door. The doors were great, but I have got a 1/2 inch gap. Like I said, door sweep's good, door bad, 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 bad. And if you don't think something can get through a door, that's a scorpion. I just wanted to make sure you guys get the fact that things will crawl under doors. And then you've also got to worry about this. I mean, if you're doing inspections around kitchen areas or dock doors or where there's a lot of high traffic and food, things you need to remember is, again, that finger trick. And I get it. Nobody wants to use fingers, but you can also do screwdrivers, other things that will get you the same thing to illustrate, I've got a problem, this needs to be done, or you're never going to get rid of that pest problem. Overhangs. Reason I put this in is, again, you look at this overhang here, looks great, but I've got a gutter. I got news for you. The gutter goes up in, and then there's always a gap. 1/4 of an inch gap. I'm a rat or a bat, I can get in. Then the reason I wanted to show this, because that is just a rat with wings. I call that pigeons. But this is where it was sitting, and this is what it was leaving. Oh, and this is where the kids get picked up at the bus line. Y'all, we all know that pigeon droppings do carry histoplasmosis. So again, we're talking about a disease transmission. But what if this was bat droppings? What if this was rat droppings? I mean, all of that, again, being observant, look at the report and go, these are the things we need to put down. This one here, I do have a new updated picture because they repainted this back dock. They put a new top on. And then I caught it on Sunday and almost died because they had 2 trailers backed up and you could see where the dock doors were wide open with the trailers. And I'm like, well, why don't you just let everybody come on in? And I did put the final image of that roof rat using an electrical wire to walk across so that they could get into that house. Again, don't think they won't do it. I tell everybody, watch for your security camera lines, your electricity lines, gas lines, whatever, because if there's a way for them to use that to their advantage, they will. So clutter and vegetation. Sometimes when you tell folks that they need to get rid of certain vegetation or clutter, they may not listen to you. And then you can use things like predators, not safe. I mean, I will use other things if I feel that somebody needs to do something to get rid of something. But again, if I'm a rodent, I can hang out in these crates. I can hang out over here. Throw me a couple of cardboard boxes and baby, I'm yours. What about this? This, forget it's supposed to go into the recycling thing. It's all around. Well, that's food, water, harborage for a few things. That was just transport for the rats to get over onto the roof. And then they, again, a little flashing just enough. And now I'm in. So you have a hole in the door. Oh, we can't get a new door. Well, I'm illustrating what we did at a school in the city of New Orleans. We took sheet metal and fixed the door because the idea is I don't want anything getting in. Whatever I could do to keep it outside in nature works. Other things that work, hardware cloth. I mean, not only do they make it in metal, but the black one that you see here is a heavy duty plastic. But if I'm trying to keep something, bat, rat, bird, I can do that. Not going to keep a lot of insects out because of the width of the hole. But typically what I'm trying to keep out is not only the bat, rat, and the bird, but the skunk and the raccoon as well. So when you're doing proactive inspections, again, floors and drains, y'all, I could go on for years on nasty floor drains, which I'm sure plenty of y'all have got as well. But the problem is things will come up. This one, you've got food storage on the other side. I've got a glue board here. I have a hole up there. And what you didn't see in this image was the bananas that were close by. So what we're looking for is, are the walls all sealed? What about some of these ceramic tiles? Are they all sealed? What about what type of flooring is it? Is it composite? Is it concrete? I mean, there's different flooring and wall materials. The hardier it is, the harder it is for insects and rats to move. But if it's soft sheetrock, y'all, that again, if I've got a biting power of 7,000 PSI, I am in.
Hey,
Kitchens.
Janet, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to give a little 5 to 7 minute warning so we have enough time for Q&A.
Okay. Ah. This one I do need to show. You're looking at a kitchen. Nobody pays attention to ceiling tiles. I really want you all to understand this, because the second image was the behind the scenes of a kitchen, and they had no ceiling tiles and the rats were running amok. Other areas, if you see a big metal trap door in a custodial closet, that means there is an opening below it. Be afraid when you open it, because if you get a really funky smell, that generally means something's living there. The Tom and Jerry hole above, again, rats were dropping down. You can barely see the black, but that's sebum. And yes, that is a rat dropping. Open areas, and I do this again because some of you may not realize this. This is the crawl space underneath that trap door that I just showed you. And this is the other part of the school building where this is the attic space. So don't think they don't have the run of the house. And since I know that won't work. So monitoring for pests, again, we use different devices. The one on the left is what we call a multi-catch-all device. Mice check in, but they don't check out. Yes, we do still use the Victor wooden snap traps. They are still there. It's just a matter of where you put it. And I can tell you, more is better. You can never have enough snap traps out because they do get smart. And then on the right, that is the 21st century version of the Victor. Mice check in, but once they hit the trap, there is a trigger. It comes down, it hurts the mouse, but that little trap door closes so that, again, you could just toss it. Like I said, in talking about rodent bait stations, remember when I said there was a better model than the one that was pushed wrong? Here it is. It's this one in the right bottom corner. It's typically designed so that the rats will run through because they think it's just a channel. But what's nice is the rodent bait's up in it, and they will stop and feed. The top left one, yes, it looks like a rock, but a lot of these bait stations, that's what they're called, comes with multiple things. I can put a snap trap where you see the poles. I can put rodenticide. There are wells. I can put liquid ant bait. I can put snail bait. I mean, there's bunches of different things. And before we stop, the other thing that Nihad asked me to kind of cover for y'all is on the control. You may, if you haven't been living under a rock or out of country for a while, have heard various topics about rodenticides. There are what we would call 3 classes of rodenticides. Anticoagulants. One is called first generation. They were the first ones created back in the 70s. Second generation, they were supposed to be multi-feed because the first ones weren't getting enough. And then you have the non-anticoagulants. They are for, again, single dose, multi-dose. And yes, strychnine is straight up for gophers. We do not use that in rodent management anymore. But the reason I am bringing this up is under the lawsuit and a lot of fervor about rodenticides harming non-target animals. EPA evaluated 11 of the active ingredients. The ones in yellow are the first gen, the ones in fuchsia are second gen, and then the non-anticoagulants. So those, how do they work? So what did EPA say? Okay, based on this, if you are using one of these rodenticides, okay, you're going to probably need a bait station. You may be able to do some burrow baiting, and what they call about broadcast spot baiting, that's really generally for gophers. And then understanding the labels and some of the EPA stuff. Why I am bringing this up. There are going to be changes that are going to come within the next year, and this will really impact our customers and our clients. Again, is there potential for non-targets, meaning chipmunks or squirrels or some endangered mice? Again, one of the things that they talk about is mitigation measures. And if anybody's got questions about feral hog bait, I'll say that for questioning. But what I really wanted y'all to understand is this. Consumers are going to go to the store. I don't care which store you go to because I've been to many. The little pellets that we used to have, the decon, that was pulled, and that was an act to get those pulled because they didn't want to take it off. Now what you get is these throw packs, these toss packs that have got mint and stuff. But again, that can have some secondary problems. So what we are trying to do is sell things that come in refillable bait stations. So again, if the consumer wants to get a rodent bait, they have got to get it and they buy it as an all-in-one. That is supposed to be coming out, but I can still find active rodenticide at stores without the station. Pest management, yes, we can do it. We use these products, but again, we have to be very careful about putting things in tamper-resistant containers and making sure we're doing things correctly. So in summary, again, rodent-borne diseases are serious. We know they're an issue. They're not always reportable in every state, but you need to be aware of them. Again, commensal rodents, the running joke is, again, they're college educated. They're not college educated, but they are mammals. And all you've got to do is watch some nature show put on by David Attenborough, and you'll start watching mammals do some things because we have watched them in video, security cameras, whatever. And let me tell you, these little suckers are smart. Again, it's protecting the environment. And if somebody is going to remove a rodent, please wear gloves. Put them in a plastic grocery bag, something, and then toss them into the trash. Don't just leave them hanging around. Understanding the key elements of an IPM program. Designate your coordinator. Make sure there's an IT person who can talk to everybody. Proper identification, because the little rat in the box, that is not a roof rat. That is not a mouse. That is called a hispid cotton rat. It is a native rat to North America. It's got a cousin called the rice rat. But the problem with these rats, they carry hantavirus. And that is in one of my traps. Okay. Inspect, monitoring, use thresholds, report, sanitation, maintenance and pest proofing. Look at different methods. If you feel stumped, call experts. There's more than one of us now in the country. Education and communication, evaluate, use your rules. If you are an environmental health professional, I want you to use your rules. Okay. And then if you didn't get the contact information, there it is. And then my last slide with my contact information. And yes, anybody can Google me. I'm that easy.
Thank you so much, Janet, for a really great presentation. We have a few minutes for questions. So first off, we have regarding hantavirus. If there's rodent urine in an attic, for example, and the odor permeates the room below, is there a significant risk of inhaling air? No, okay.
No, and again, typically, if the rodents are up in the attic, you may get people will say you need to do this, this, and this. If it's overwhelming, and I mean, generally the insulation is just saturated with urine, I may or may not. And here's the reason, y'all. Because I understand the asbestos world, sometimes we don't want to touch certain things. In other words, I would say come in and blow insulation on top of it. But again, you got to make sure that the rats can't get back in and all that stuff. It's really when you go messing with it. In other words, you got to hit the rat poop and it goes flying. And then yes, yum.
Okay, so we have a couple questions about glue traps. So someone asked, is applying a glue board part of IPM, or you only apply it when you have evidence of rodents? And kind of a follow-up one, how necessary are glue traps?
Okay. So and I wish I had a prop. It's right here. Glue boards, this big. I can put my foot on it. That is not monitoring. That is for control. If I'm monitoring, generally they're smaller. And yes, I can put them out, but if rats and mice get caught on a glue board, generally it's more of control. We're not monitoring. I say glue boards are more for monitoring. But I have been known to utilize a glue board because they wouldn't go on the traps. And I was like, fine, I'll fix your red wagon.
All right. So next, why is the brick on the bait station not good?
Because one, the rats won't pay attention to it. Two, that is not legal as far as being tamper proof.
Hmm.
Tamper proof means I cannot pick it up and move the bait station. And I mean, and trust me, I saw one that even had a brick. It was completely destroyed because there are bigger animals, coyotes and dogs, that can literally shake a bait station and break it apart. And there goes all your rodenticide.
Oh gosh. All right, thank you. Okay, next. What do you suggest to block plastic PVC pipes under sinks and dishwasher areas to ensure unwanted pests are not getting in?
That can be as easy as copper mesh. There is a product out there called Excluder. It is an elastomeric fabric. The only thing I tell people that doesn't work well is expanding foam. And again, because they can chew through it. So if you've got to do, they do make a specific expanding foam for pest control. And that one works because it's got, again, a little bit more solid to it. Whereas the stuff that you buy at the big box store, it, it expands and it does nothing. I have literally got pictures of rats chewing through it. So you need to give something that makes them not want to do it.
Okay. Okay, so next, after finding rodent poop, what is your suggestion for cleaning that area and the surrounding areas?
Again, it all depends on where it's at. If it's outdoors, I mean, you can use a blower and blow it off. If it's indoors, I probably wouldn't go hog wild with a vacuum, but you can, I mean, like anything else in the environmental health world, you can spray it with a 10% bleach solution, let it sit for a little bit, and then, yeah, you could sweep it up. Gloves, face mask.
Important. Next question. Our codes state that we can't use snap traps due to the bodies not being removed frequently. Is this different in other states?
Mm, I've never heard of that, but that's interesting because if somebody is putting out a snap trap, they should be monitoring more frequently. And for those of you that think you don't need to listen to the second half of this webinar series, I really want you guys to listen to this one in 2 weeks, because what we're going to talk about then, and this is really the speakers for that, but I will set them up. The technology now is most of our traps come with sensors, so that, again, when something is triggered, I know. I know I need to go out and deal with it. Because you can put out 300 traps and only three get tripped, but you need to go take away the dead carcass or see what else tripped it, because they can trip it and nothing get there. And then, yes, come back. And to your point of not being able to do that, generally what I tell folks is, if you're really worried about traps and the dead, then you know what? We use bait stations, and I put the snap traps in them. And yes, I have killed them, as you saw in one of my last slides.
All right. So we have just a couple minutes left. So one more question. How can we convince clients not to use rodent poisons that kill wildlife? What are the best practices?
Okay. If the rodenticide is used correctly, it does not kill wildlife. We have enough studies to know that. All right. Our problem is the consumer side of things, not the structural pest control side of things. The consumer will not use the product correctly. I go to the big box store. Oh, I don't need to put it in a station. I hate my neighbor's rats, and I just scatter the bait. That is illegal in all 50 states. That's against the label. So the best thing is education. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Why haven't you done this? And this is, again, my concern is when we allow just anyone to do the control, we're not getting control. And especially with rats, it is a community effort. It's the village.
Okay, well, with that, we have just a couple reminders for everyone. First off, just want to thank you, Janet, for a great presentation and answering all of those questions. Um, the second part, as you mentioned in this rodent control webinar series, is Rodent Control Frontiers, Monitoring Technology and the Science Behind Smarter Solutions. This is happening in a couple weeks, Wednesday, November 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to register if you haven't already. I believe we'll be dropping that link in the chat. But this webinar will dive deeper into effective rodent management strategies by specifically exploring how each professionals can utilize emerging technologies, real-time data, and AI to proactively prevent infestations. So we look forward to seeing you there. And finally, NEHA's mission to advance environmental health is made stronger through the support of our community. So contributions help us provide scholarships, support critical research, and expand training opportunities for the professionals who protect our communities every day. If you're interested in supporting this work, we invite you to learn more about how your gift can ensure health professionals have the resources they need to meet today's challenges and tomorrow's opportunities. So thank you again for joining us today and for everything you do to champion environmental public health. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.